Hello and welcome back to the Sanitus Health podcast series. Mark Winstanley with you today, along with my fellow co-founder, John Corbett. Hello, John.
Hello, Mark. Happy Thursday, wherever you are in the world that we're recording this.
And let's hope people listen to it on a Thursday now. You can catch it on our YouTube channel. That's newly introduced. And bit of feedback, John, that I don't know whether we should be concerned. People are asking, where's Dr. Frank? Is that because he's so popular or we're not popular?
Well, I think that Frank's a man of leisure at the moment, but he works hard in his medical clinic, so he deserves a break.
So he may be famous in cyberspace more than we knew. Anyway, we'll crack on and hopefully this topic gets a bit more positive feedback on us, not missing Dr. Frank. Now, John, I sent you an article that I read in the South China Morning Post this week, which talked about issues sleeping. Now, I have to say, flabbergasted. We're in Hong Kong. People sleep standing up on the bus. How can there be issues sleeping in Hong Kong? This article seemed to suggest so.
Well, the article actually was written by a practitioner in London. But in fact, did you know, Mark and viewers and listeners, that the second most common presentation to a GP in Australia, and I'm assuming the UK, is sleep issues. So typically they would go to their doctor, get their blood pressure taken, and say, by the way, doc, while I'm here, I'm having terrible trouble sleeping. So sleep disorders, the second most common presentation in GP clinics. So it's a big issue, Mark.
Right. Now, John, is this issues sleeping that may be in the area that we're talking about with loneliness, depression, etc., or is this more physical issues like a sleep apnea or that type of condition?
Well, look, it's actually multifactorial. That's a big word, but it can be many things. The most important thing to know is most people will have issues with sleep at some time in their life, whether it's adjusting to a new job, a new baby in the house, physical problems. So the diagnosis of insomnia is where you have at least 3 nights of disturbed sleep every week that's affecting your work or daily functions for at least 3 months. So a bad night's
3 nights a week for 3 months,
which is
indicates a problem,
impacting on your daily functioning. Now, you've got stories of people like Maggie Thatcher not having 4 hours sleep, or Winston Churchill. But in general, we do need to sleep well for daily function. But again, a bad night's sleep every now and then doesn't equal insomnia. However, sleep interacts with mood and physical activity. If I can't sleep, I'm more likely to be a little bit anxious or depressed. If I'm depressed, I'm more likely to have trouble sleeping. Then on top of that, there's the medical issues. People with thyroid conditions have issues with sleep. People with diabetes may have sleep too much. So there's a whole range of both an interaction between the physical and the psychological when it comes to sleep.
And is it fair to say that some people need to sleep more or less than others?
Yeah, it's on the spectrum. There'll be people who always have been poor sleepers, and I know maybe some of you've got children who've never been able to sleep well, and then there's others who just take to their bed and they're out like logs. So there's a range. In general, the older we get, the less sleep we require.
Okay. And John, we'll test how we are in terms of memory, forgetfulness. Everybody sleeps late when they have kids, right? New babies.
Yep.
You're attuned to every sound.
Yep.
And those god-awful baby monitors that you had next to your bed where you heard when the baby made a noise and everyone jumped because this obviously a problem. And you just coped with sleeping less then.
Yep.
But you sort of hoped it was going to come to an end fairly soon, and every parent brags about kids sleeping through the night, don't they?
Oh, like a badge of honor.
And the parents can get back to trying to sleep through the night. So that's not some problem. That's just, you've got to take care of the newborn, the child, and kids have bad nights.
And just on that, Mark, that's a really interesting point that you make. People tend to catastrophize about being up during the night, but in fact, there's a concept called the sentry effect. And the sentry effect is when I say to the patients in my clinic, do you think it's actually a good idea to sleep uninterrupted during the night? And they say, of course. I said, no, actually, no. Think about it. We've been in tribes for thousands of years, and there are people within the tribe who would have been go to bed early and get up early, and those who go to bed late and get up late. Equally, the sentry effect is when I get up during the night, that's actually hardwired into my genetic makeup. I'm trained to be alert during the night. It's a protective mechanism from thousands of years ago. And the issue and when you understand that if you're awake at 3 a.m, that's actually a normal and natural response. Just as being attentive and hovering over a newborn, so waking up for a period of time each night is actually hardwired into us. And so when I work with my patients, once you understand that actually this is normal, I become less anxious and I then go back to sleep.
So, okay, so part of it's hardwired into us because, we're the tribal warriors protecting the group.
Absolutely.
Can I use that excuse, whereas others say they're just getting up to go to the toilet?
Well, it's both. particularly as one ages, the bladder isn't as function. It isn't as good as it used to be. But what it does do is I'm able to say to myself, this is normal and natural. The issue, Mark, is that when you're lying in bed at night and you're trying to sleep, and it's like anything, the more you try for something to happen, the less likely it is to happen. It's called the law of reverse effect. So at the heart of sleep therapy is actually controlling the thoughts and the catastrophic thinking and the thinking, oh my God, if I don't go to sleep now, I'm going to have a terrible day in the morning. I won't be able to cope at work, or I'm going to be off my game, or I won't be able to manage. So particularly but also our population is that we focus on at Sanitus generally are people who are a little bit older, who live alone. And so it's important for people in that situation to be able to tell themselves that it's going to be okay and that we'll be able to go back to sleep. There are certain techniques that people use in order for that to happen. Now, we don't have a lot of time on this podcast, but things such as, Mark, you would appreciate this. When I have trouble sleeping, I used to be a golfer, although not as good as you. But I remember when I can't go to sleep, I visualized playing 18 holes of golf on the golf course I played when I was a kid. So what I would do is that I would focus on the hole, the next shot. And I would often get to like the third hole and I'm fast asleep. I had a patient who he would go to bed with his wife would fall asleep like that, and he would become anxious because he was wide awake. So this guy loved French cooking. So he would visualize having 10 people over for dinner, and he'd have to prepare the menu, and he'd go to the market and he'd do all the preparation. So that was his way of changing the focus from, oh my God, I'm wide awake, this is terrible, I won't be able to sleep, into visualizing a pleasurable experience. And then within 5 or 10 minutes, you go into sleep. So there's very practical strategies that people can utilize to help with sleep. Does that make sense?
It does. And it also makes me think of people who are living alone don't have the issue of a restless partner or someone who can't get to sleep or who's tossing and turning, snoring. We just got to worry about ourselves in
Yeah.
the case when we're living alone.
Yeah.
But you said about playing golf, and I can imagine 3 holes was enough for you. That's about 47 shots, so it's going to take a while, John. But other people thinking about cooking dinner, but isn't that making your mind active, and you're busy, you're thinking, and when you're thinking, you're not going to go to sleep.
No. It's actually called the screenplay effect, like you're creating a movie and every shot. So what you're doing is you're changing focus. You're changing focus from, I can't go to sleep, what's the time, I've got to get up in an hour, to something pleasurable. And sleep is cyclical. Every 90 minutes, there's about a 5 or 10 minute window in which people then are able to go more readily into sleep. It's changing the focus, and it helps people relax, because the issue with sleep is arousal. I'm getting anxious. And once you start, it's like going into the ring. Who's going to win tonight? Is it me or the bed? And so changing your focus. And so these are very practical techniques that we can help the people who we see at Sanitus to be able to get in control of their sleep, because sleep is very problematic.
Okay. Using the golf analogy, I played a bit of sport in my youth, and I read where concentration is the art of thinking about nothing.
Yes.
You're not cluttering your brain with thoughts about bad shot, good shot, what I have to do. You do it.
Yep.
So I think I fall asleep when I'm not thinking. I'm not thinking about anything. Is that because I'm concentrating on something to think about nothing?
Look, I wouldn't begin to answer what you think about it in the middle of the night, Mark, but the key thing is the more we try to sleep, the harder it becomes.
And the more tired we are, the harder it is to get to sleep.
It can be at times. And so we also focus at Sanitus on sleep hygiene. So regular, going to bed at a regular time most nights. Don't have one of these mobile phones in front of you. A lot of people wake up sleep with one eye open, checking the time, making sure that you making sure that you have adequate screening, etc.
Yeah.
So that's important. There was a saying that this bed is for 2 things: sex and sleep. That's it. And so don't bring your laptop into the bedroom. Don't have your dinner in bed. A lot of elderly people spend a lot of time in their bed. And the issue is the people with insomnia, they're spending too much time in bed awake. And so generally, if after 30 minutes of not being able to sleep, get up, do something, have a glass of milk, watch something on TV. Then when you start to get a bit tighter, you go back to bed. But the issue, as I was saying, is that too much time in bed awake, that's the problem.
Okay. So we've spoken on earlier podcasts about the 4 pillars of socializing, exercising, nutrition, and sleep.
Yep.
We're focusing on sleep, but nutrition plays a part in this, right?
Yep.
If you're eating at irregular times, you're going to sleep at irregular times. Or if you're having coffee or sugary foods, it's going to make it harder for your body to slow down and sleep, correct?
It depends. It varies. In fact, I had a question just actually before this podcast from a customer who said, is it true that eating cheese makes you sleep more vivid, dream more vividly? There's a lot of old wives' tales. In general, people, there is something to be said in the warm milk and honey or the chamomile tea, those sorts of settling techniques when people sleep. So the interaction with a heavy meal and not sleeping, look, I really don't know. I had a patient the other day and he had trouble sleeping. That's why he came to see me, but he said, why is it that Monday to Friday, I just cannot sleep? On Saturday, I could even have a double espresso before I go to bed, and I sleep like a baby, because it's the connection between anxiety and sleep.
Okay. So, and as we say, it's different for everyone how much sleep you need, whether coffee affects you, sugary foods, cheese, whatever it might be. It may affect you. It probably affects you if you think it does.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. The other one is exercise.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're physically tired from having walked, danced, jogged, boxed, played golf, whatever it might be, if you've done something, you're physically tired, it's going to be easier to sleep?
Up to a point. I had a patient a couple of years ago, and he would come home at 7 p.m. and then he'd go for a 25-kilometer run. So he was, and then, so you're aroused. But in general, physical activity, being mobile, being physically and socially active is a really helpful tool to manage one's levels of stress, but also then enable us to be slightly fatigued when we go to bed. And
if I'm pinned to my desk all day, if I'm not out going to meetings, going to the bank, to the post office, at least I walk if I do those things.
Yeah.
If I'm at my desk all day, I feel tired when I leave the office. I get home and I sit down because I'm tired.
Yeah.
Then I go to bed and you can't sleep because you haven't done anything. You haven't worn your body out.
Yeah.
And your brain is the thing that's working, but nothing else is.
That's right. And we, particularly with an elderly population where mobility becomes more problematic, it's really important to be able to say, okay, get out of your chair at least once an hour, go to the fence, go to the clothesline, do something, but keep moving.
A long walk to a clothesline in Hong Kong, John.
Well, most of our patients are in countries where a lawnmower is not a symbol of wealth.
That's true. So let me know about a couple of other things that can help. I went to something that coping with stress, have a notepad next to your bed.
Yep.
Write something down that you don't want to forget.
That's really important. It's called setting it aside. So if you regularly wake up during the night thinking about what you've got to do the next day, or what have I got to do at work, or what's the important thing that I've got to do tomorrow, if that's something you traditionally will wake up and think about an hour before you go to bed, for 5 or 10 minutes, just write down all the things that you could potentially be thinking about as you wake up. So then when you go to sleep, then when you wake up during the night and you start to think, you can say, I'll put that to bed. So very practical tool.
I'm going to raise an issue with that, John, because I don't have a notepad and pencil to put by my desk, but I can pick up my iPad and my phone and send myself an email. Am I sort of clogging things with screen time that I shouldn't be having with setting things aside?
Well, you wouldn't do that straight before bed. You'd do it in the evening. Now, there's a big debate on whether how impactful is the screen. And unfortunately, the horse is bolted with digital technology. We can't put it back in the box.
Is reading a book a good thing to do before going to sleep?
If it's a settling tool, then yes, it is. It's
now electronic rather than a paperback.
That's okay. And they do talk about the different activities access different neural pathways. So there's a big difference between reading a chapter of a book in whether it's a Kindle or a tablet, or incessantly scrolling Instagram.
Yep.
Etc.
Okay.
But there are some people who develop like a settling routine. I know that to sleep well, for some people, you shower at night, you listen to the radio, or you listen to a podcast, or you have a phone call to your mum, or your phone call to your family member. That's part of your typical settling routine.
So I'm going to say, John, that the daily call from Sanitus to people living alone, I was going to say living alone is a good thing, because it's an outlet for them to talk about a stress, a concern. You know, I've had a sore throat. It's flu season. Should I go to the GP? That's keeping them awake. And that's a very minor issue, and it just needs, yes, mum, go and get the flu shot. Yes, mum, go and get some Strepsils and calm your throat down. Their call with one of our nurses is going to alleviate some of these stresses. It's going to be a social interaction, and it's a way for them to voice concerns that may be worrying them.
Absolutely, because it's the noise in your head, the things that are preoccupying you, and that human interaction on a daily basis. It can be a call before you go to bed. We can schedule calls 24/7 in terms of what our delivery model looks like. But having but also being able to talk with the nurse about, how's your sleep today, how was your sleep, Mrs. Jones? How are you sleeping? And developing techniques such as, well, have you thought about having a glass of milk? Have you thought about, after you've been awake for an hour in bed, get up, read a book, have a cocoa, etc. So those sorts of things are really practical and tangible, and they work, Mark.
So we've built on one of our main pillars for good mental health, heart health, and the other is good sleep.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much for your time today, John.
Okay, and look forward to talking to you at our next podcast.
Cheers, John.